Hey everyone, TJ here. We are on day 7 of our year-long read-through of the Bible. Today's readings are Genesis chapters 19 through 20, Psalm chapter 1, and Mark chapter 7. I'll be focusing on a passage from Mark chapter 7 that has to deal with the disciples not ceremonially cleaning their hands before they eat, which freaks out the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. After noticing this, they go up to Jesus and they ask him why his disciples are eating with unclean hands. And Jesus replies with a quote from the prophet Isaiah in verse 6, "These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules." Jesus later says in verse 15, "Nothing outside a person can defile them by going into them. Rather, it is what comes out of a person that defiles them." So naturally, the disciples are pretty dense and they can't understand what Jesus means. So Jesus gets pretty sassy in verse 18 and he says, "Why are you so dull?" He then explains what he meant in verses 21 and 22. "For it is from within, out of a person's heart, that evil thoughts come: sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly." While I was reading this story, the first thing that came to mind for me was worrying about the wrong things. And it also brought to mind this instance at an old church of mine in my small group, a conversation centered around a group of football players who showed up for church that previous Sunday, but not all of them were wearing what was considered proper attire. Some of them were wearing shorts. Now, I'm not very confrontational in a group setting. I don't really like being confrontational at all, period. But this I had to say something. And me and this individual had a very healthy back and forth, but I left pretty steamed afterwards. And I remember telling myself, you know what, I'm just going to show up to church in my pajamas on Sunday to prove a point. I did not, even though I really wanted to. The last thing the church needs to worry about are people not wearing proper attire, especially when it comes to young people, because young people are leaving the church in droves more than they are showing up in droves on Sunday mornings. One of the main things we need to let guests of the church know is that they are welcome, and also that Jesus died on the cross for their sins so that if they believe in him, they shall have everlasting life. That's all for today's reading. Tomorrow's is Genesis chapters 21 through 23, Psalm 107, and Mark chapter 8. See you later.